So we're meeting with Eevee Saucedo, who is a Sandberg alum from 2010. She's been kind enough to give up her time for us today. And we're going to ask her some questions about her career path, her experience at Carl Sandburg, and just some of the sort of experiences she has and what her life is now like working in an art-related field. So, Eevee, welcome and thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Let's go back to your experience at Carl Sandburg. What courses did you take, and then what sort of caught your, I don't know, interest and made you want to pursue this as a career?
Yeah, I took literally every art class that Sandburg had. So from the time I was a freshman, I was like one of those crazy people who did like 0 hour, and like I just took as many extra classes as possible, just right off the bat. And so by the time I got to my senior year, I hardly needed any more credits. And so I was like, all right, let's fill it all up with art classes. And so, yeah, I think I did like whatever the equivalent of like TAing is.
Sure.
For like multiple teachers. And I just like worked on my portfolio during that time.
And so you are working in sort of the digital world now. Is that something that was always interested to you, or digital animation, or did you arrive at it sort of after high school? How did you come to that choice?
Yeah, actually, so I always knew, I've always been like a huge fan of like Disney movies, and I always knew like I wanted to work on those types of movies. And then I think it was like the Sandberg class where we like pick a job and like have a budget, and we like buy a fake house, and it was like a whole class like that. And like my partner that I was working with had picked 3D animator as their job, and then that was the first time it kind of clicked for me, like, wait, this is an actual like job, like you can make money doing this, like you could have like a legit life doing this. And then I just went all in. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a 3D animator. Like I'm going to do like whatever I got to do to be a 3D animator. And then so I started looking up like all the best schools to go to for 3D animation and like what their portfolios required, and then started working on my portfolio for that.
So you ended up at it's Noman, right?
Yeah, so Noman School of Visual Effects. They are an accredited school now, so now they give degrees, but when I went it was just like a 3-year program, and it was basically like fast track into VFX. So this job is like super specialized. It is very specialized, and everybody in the animation field is very specialized. So it's like we're specialized in our field, but then within that field, we're even more specialized. So as an animator, I am only animating. And then there's like 100 other jobs that you could have in the animation industry. Like there's modelers, like the people who sculpt the characters. There's rigging and TA artists who like put bones and controls in the characters. And then I'm an animator, so I actually make the characters move. So it's like a digital puppet essentially. And then we have lighters and people who do layout and like set up and animate the cameras in 3D space. And then there's people who like render all this stuff. And then there's like the super smart like technical coding and scripting people. And there's people who do like effects like fire, smoke, dust, whatever, like hair, like the way that they do hair is so like technical and specialized. So it's like there's so many jobs in this field that you could have.
So when I'm watching a digitally animated movie and I see like all those names at the end, that's what you're talking about. These are all the people who specialize in all these different areas.
Yeah, and even then, that's not all the people who worked on it. Not everybody gets credited. Usually only like the top people get credited. So it's like there was probably like 100 more people who worked on it.
Wow. You mentioned a couple of shows and movies you worked on. You mind mentioning those as well?
Yeah, so the most popular things that I've worked on, I worked on Stranger Things. So I animated the Demogorgon in season 1, and then I worked on Hotel Transylvania 3. So that was my first like animated feature film that I worked on. And then I done a ton of like TV, VFX, and commercials. So I worked on The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow. I worked on the show Swamp Thing and the show Lucifer. So that's actually what I'm going to be back on, is animating like Devil Lucifer. So if anyone watches Lucifer, I did that.
How does your job satisfy you, creatively speaking? I mean, it sounds like you would be, you know, wanting to do this anyway. So it's like just only natural.
Yeah. So actually, I feel like this job is perfect for anyone who is creative, but also technically savvy, or like a nerd. Basically, like it fills my nerd brain with joy, because it does get pretty technical. Like the program Maya is pretty complicated, but so it's, you know, figuring out how everything works together. And like when you start getting deep into the weeds with constraints and stuff, it's like a puzzle that you're trying to solve. Like, okay, how can I get this to work in this space with these constraints and with these parameters? And it's fun. So I feel like it fills my brain, like both sides of my brain.
So like that's one of those, I guess we call it like a positive challenge about your job, is sort of solving those problems. What other kind of challenges do you face in your profession?
Yeah. As an animator, our job is very project to project, or very project based. So you'll get hired at a studio for a project, and then once that project is over, then you have to go find another job. So I'm constantly jumping studios. You know, if you look my name up, like on my LinkedIn or whatever, you'll see that I've worked at like a billion studios. But that's why. But that's like normal for the animation industry. So, you know, unless you get lucky and get hired at a big studio and get staff, which is awesome, but not the norm. But it is doable. But so basically, we have to constantly be hustling. So I am always hustling. When I am on a job, I'm still looking for other jobs, and I'm always sending my reel out, and I'm always networking. I'm always going to like events and like keeping in touch with people. That is super important.
So it sounds like you got a second job and constantly looking for the next job.
Yes. Yep.
You mentioned
and keeping up
reel.
to date.
I'm sorry, what was that?
And keeping up to date with all the software changes, because the technology updates so quickly.
So you mentioned the reel, and so that is sort of the equivalent of like your portfolio.
Yeah. So my demo reel, it's basically just a compilation of like all the animations that I'm proudest of, and that's what I'm sending out, you know, to recruiters, or, you know, my friends. If they're working somewhere that's hiring, they'll throw my reel to the person who needs to see it. But that is your moneymaker, essentially, and how much you get, like how much you can negotiate, and just everything is based off of that demo reel. So it doesn't matter what school you went to or anything. All they care about is your work awesome?
So show us what you can do. That's it.
Yep. Like, that's prove great. It.
So what advice would you give your younger self? You go back in time, back to 2010, what would you tell yourself?
I don't know. I would just tell myself that there is a place for you artistically, and that there are other people like you. Because when I was in high school, I felt very like alone, I guess. I don't know. I felt super like outcasty, like, oh, I don't know, nerdy, weird art kid. Yeah. Well, emo kid, because this was 2010, you know, so super emo me. And just, I feel like now I have definitely found my people and all the people like me. Like everybody in the animation industry loves cartoons and video games and all that stuff, because that's like, we make that stuff, so everybody like loves it so much. So I think that's my favorite part about this job.
Important in the long run to sort of stick with what you want to do, stick with who you are, right?
Exactly.
And, work out.
Yeah.
Like you said, work out in the long run. That's great. Mm-hmm. Do you want to share the current animation that you just are working on?
Yeah.
Or like that? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so this is Sorry, I just wanted to pull up this window over here. Okay, so this is just like a personal animation that I was working on, but I just wanted to show you guys like what I do in my job. So we have essentially like these 3D puppets, and so every animated character that you see has 800 controls, and so I can control like every part of them like in detail. And so every time I move this character, it creates these keys down here. So these are these red ticks down here. So it's like doing animation is super tedious. So I'm like on every one of these frames, I'm like individually moving all of these joints. And so that is like this is Maya. This is the program that we use in every program. But yeah, so hopefully this gives you like just a better idea of what being a 3D animator entails. It's like, this is it. This is what I do. I play with puppets all day.
Sounds like, yeah, that detail orientation is huge. Like you gotta, I mean, I can't imagine. I could see you going down the rabbit hole trying to do just one scene.
Yeah, exactly. And this here, this is just 41 frames, and there's 24 frames per second. So if I go even to like a second of animation, like so much work went into this 1 second of animation here.
Wow.
Because like on every one of these frames, I had to move it. And then on top of that, in every joint, we have this down here. So this is the graph editor, and then this was the technical part that I was talking about. So like every joint just has all these channels, so I could move it in translation or rotation or scale, and then just like figuring out how all of these connect to each other. So like, you know, I like to scare people with this when I select all of the controls here. And they go into my graph editor, and everyone is like, what is this like crazy spaghetti going on here? So it's like, you know, figuring out how to read all of this and how this translates into 3D space. So it's a technical job, kind of, but it's still super fun and creative.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Like this is filling all sides of your brain for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, Eevee, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Happy to talk.
Best of luck to you. Enjoy the warm weather in LA. Think about us back here in cold Midwest.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. Well, at least you guys aren't on fire, because we're always on fire here. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. Maybe I'll take the cold. All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.